Do you ever feel like your life is full of chaos, but somehow, it all seems to come together in the end? Or maybe you've noticed someone around you whose mood swings and unpredictable energy leave you both confused and intrigued? If so, you're not alone. Today, we're diving into one of the most misunderstood and fascinating zodiac signs, Gemini. Chaos in human form? Or something deeper, more powerful? Let's find out. Geminis are known for their unpredictability, their ability to transform and adapt, and the way they can charm you with a smile one moment and leave you wondering where they went the next. But what if this so-called chaos is actually a reflection of something profound, something that can lead to greater self-awareness, growth, and connection with the world around us? If you've ever wondered why Geminis are the way they are, or if you're a Gemini yourself, this video is for you. I'm going to share insights not only about their wild, fascinating energy but also how understanding this sign can help us embrace the duality in our own lives. Trust me, by the end of this, you'll see the chaos in a whole new light. And before we dive in, make sure to hit the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy learning about astrology, and share it with someone who needs a little extra clarity on the mystery that is Gemini. Let's build a peaceful, curious community here at Zen Mind Peaceful Life, where we explore the stars and our inner selves. You might have noticed that the most fascinating people in the room are often the ones who seem to have multiple sides, like they're always shifting between different moods, ideas, or actions. It's almost like they can't sit still or make up their minds, and yet, when you look closer, there's a reason behind the chaos they seem to stir wherever they go. This, my friends, is Gemini at its core. Geminis, represented by the symbol of the twins, embody duality in the most striking way. One moment they're the life of the party, charming everyone with their wit and energy. The next, they retreat into their own world, introspective and quiet. It's easy to label this as inconsistency or even chaos, but when you begin to understand the deeper layers of Gemini, you start to see that it's more about balance, an intricate dance between two distinct energies that need to coexist. Think about that friend who can brighten up your day with a joke, and then, just as quickly, withdraw to think about something deeply personal. Their ability to bounce between different states of being can leave you both amazed and confused. It's almost like you're interacting with two different people, yet it's all the same individual. This constant push and pull isn't a flaw, it's a reflection of how much they are trying to understand and integrate the world around them, and even themselves. If you are a Gemini, or if you know someone who is, the key to embracing this duality is to acknowledge that neither side is less important. The extroverted, talkative Gemini isn't any more valid than the quiet, introspective one. Both sides are essential. And this might sound like a bit of advice, but here's something to try: don't fight the shifts in your energy. When you feel the urge to change directions, embrace it. But also recognize when it's time to pull back and allow yourself a moment of reflection. For Geminis, this integration of opposite energies is where the true beauty lies. But what does this constant fluctuation mean for their relationships, whether with friends, family, or partners? It means that Geminis may not always be easy to read, but if you take the time to understand the deeper reason behind their dual nature, you'll realize it's their way of growing and connecting with the world. They might feel deeply, but their emotions can be complex, not always following a clear path. It's as though they're constantly navigating two worlds, one in the external, social realm and one in their own inner space. There's a hidden strength in this that often goes unnoticed. A Gemini can engage with the world in a way few others can, yet still maintain a deep connection to their inner self, which fuels their intellectual curiosity and creativity. For those around them, it's essential to accept their fluctuations without judgment, and rather, see these shifts as a form of self-discovery and exploration. So, if you're a Gemini, instead of trying to force yourself into a mold, celebrate the fact that you're constantly evolving. And if you're close to a Gemini, remind them that it's okay to honor both sides of their being. Geminis are ruled by Mercury, the planet of communication, which explains their remarkable ability to connect with others. But what's truly fascinating is how their thoughts can shift in the blink of an eye. One moment, they're diving deep into a conversation about philosophy, and the next, they're sharing a meme they saw online, making you laugh in a way you didn't expect. This rapid-fire communication, filled with quick wit and clever observations, can leave others struggling to keep up. But behind that stream of words is a restless mind, constantly seeking new experiences, new connections, and new knowledge. If you've ever had a conversation with a Gemini, you know it's like riding a roller coaster. They can jump from topic to topic, weaving in stories, jokes, and ideas with such fluidity that you can barely keep track. It's not that they're being flaky or distracted, it's that their mind is never at rest. For Gemini, being mentally stimulated is a constant need. This is both their gift and their challenge. While their ability to juggle multiple conversations or projects at once can be impressive, it can also leave them feeling overwhelmed, or worse, misunderstood. For those who find themselves in close relationships with Geminis, it's crucial to understand that their minds are their playground, and they thrive on intellectual stimulation. So, if you want to connect with a Gemini, don't just ask them about their day, ask them about their thoughts on big ideas, life's mysteries, or the latest tech trends. Show interest in their ever-shifting curiosities. But also, be patient with them when their focus seems to wander, because that's just part of their nature. It doesn't mean they're not invested in the conversation, it just means their mind is already thinking about something new, and their excitement for discovery might be pulling them away. As a Gemini, you might feel torn between wanting to explore all the ideas in your head while also struggling to complete the projects you start. This can often lead to unfinished tasks or missed opportunities. But here's the key: set boundaries for yourself. Try creating little mental checkpoints. When a new idea pops into your head, jot it down, but come back to the original task at hand. You don't need to squash your curiosity, but you can learn to channel it productively. The more you honor your need for mental exploration while finding ways to finish what you start, the more empowered you'll feel. Now, let's talk about something that many people misunderstand about Geminis: their need for freedom. It's not that they're afraid of commitment, but rather, they fear being trapped in a situation that doesn't allow them to evolve. Relationships with Geminis can be a roller coaster because they thrive on newness and excitement. They don't do well with boredom or predictability. If you're in a relationship with a Gemini, whether it's romantic or platonic, one thing to keep in mind is that their need for variety doesn't mean they love you any less. It simply means they need room to breathe, think, and grow without feeling suffocated by routine. I remember a Gemini friend of mine who would start a new project every few months, whether it was a hobby, a side business idea, or even a new group of people to connect with. She would dive in headfirst, but once things started to settle into a pattern, she would quickly lose interest and move on to something else. At first, this drove me crazy, because it felt like she was always jumping ship. But over time, I realized that this was her way of seeking growth. She wasn't abandoning me or the project. She was just growing in a way that was true to her nature. For Geminis, freedom is essential for emotional well-being. If you are a Gemini, it's okay to honor that desire for change, but also learn to recognize when stability might actually offer the growth you're looking for. You don't have to stay in one place forever, but there's wisdom in learning to stick with things for a bit longer than you might want to. That said, when you feel the need to break free, don't ignore it. Listen to it. It's your way of finding new inspiration. And this is where things get really interesting. Geminis are often misunderstood because of their shifting nature. People may see them as unreliable or flaky, but the truth is, Geminis are constantly evolving. They don't stay the same, and that's a beautiful thing. They challenge the status quo. They question, they seek, and they grow. They're the kind of people who can leave a lasting impact, not because they stick to one thing, but because they're constantly reinventing themselves and their world. If you're someone who resonates with Gemini energy, Try to see your adaptability as a strength rather than something to be ashamed of. Embrace the change, celebrate your curiosity, and understand that growth comes from flexibility. If you're close to a Gemini, give them the freedom to evolve and support them in their quest to discover new things about themselves and the world. But what happens when that duality, that restless energy, isn't balanced? Well, that's where things can get tricky. But we'll dive into that in the next part. Because understanding the depths of Gemini's nature isn't just about seeing their chaos, it's about learning to navigate it, both for themselves and for the people around them. So, stay tuned. The journey is just beginning. If you've ever found yourself in the presence of a Gemini, you've likely felt the magnetic pull they have when it comes to communication. They seem to always know the right words to say, and can engage with anyone on a level that feels both personal and exhilarating. But this gift for communication isn't just about speaking, it's about connecting. Geminis are natural communicators, able to bridge gaps between people, ideas, and even cultures, making them fascinating conversationalists. Take a moment to think of someone you know who can effortlessly switch between deep, intellectual conversations and lighthearted, playful banter. Maybe you've even found yourself swept up in a discussion that's gone from astrology to philosophy to memes in a matter of minutes. This is classic Gemini energy at its best. They can make you feel heard and seen, while keeping things light enough to make you smile. But the ability to communicate at such a high level, however entertaining or charming, comes with its own set of challenges. For a Gemini, their mind is constantly shifting, and as much as they thrive on conversation, they can find it difficult to stay in one place for too long. A topic might catch their attention, and before they know it, they've left one conversation and dived into another, without even realizing it. This can leave others feeling like they're being left behind or not fully engaged in the exchange. If you're a Gemini, this is something you may be very familiar with. You might start one conversation with deep enthusiasm only to find yourself distracted by a new idea halfway through, which, while fun, might not always leave others feeling fully valued. So how do you manage this? The trick is to balance your gift for communication with the need for focus. One helpful technique is setting boundaries for yourself when it comes to social interactions. Try starting your conversations with a clear intention and make an effort to wrap things up before jumping to the next topic. And if you find yourself distracted, take a moment to check in with your conversation partner to make sure they feel heard and valued. This small adjustment can help you build deeper, more meaningful connections without losing the spontaneity that makes you so uniquely you. Remember, the goal isn't to limit your natural flow of conversation but to make sure that you're giving enough space for others to feel involved in the exchange. And, if you're close to a Gemini, understanding that their energy can shift quickly will help you appreciate their playful nature rather than feeling left out when they bounce from one idea to the next. If you're a Gemini or no one, you've probably noticed the tendency for your mind to constantly seek stimulation, often jumping from one thought or task to the next. This restlessness isn't just a casual quirk, it's actually deeply rooted in their very nature. Being an air sign, Gemini thrives on mental energy, constantly seeking new information, experiences, and connections. The challenge here is that this endless search for novelty can sometimes feel overwhelming, even for them. There's a certain joy in exploring new ideas or learning something new every day. But what happens when that excitement leads to unfinished projects or scattered energy? For a Gemini, this is a common struggle. They might start multiple tasks at once, each filled with excitement and potential, only to feel distracted by something new before completing the previous one. It's not that they lack dedication, it's just that their curiosity is always pulling them in different directions. I once had a close friend who was a Gemini. She had a multitude of hobbies and side projects, each one more intriguing than the last. She would dive into a new book, get halfway through, then shift to a new creative project, leaving the book unfinished. And then, once the creative spark faded, she would move to something else. While this was always inspiring to watch, It also became clear that the lack of follow-through was causing her frustration. She would get excited about a new venture but then feel guilty about not finishing what she'd started. For those with Gemini energy, the key is accepting that this natural tendency to bounce from one thing to the next isn't something to fight against, but rather something to channel into more productive habits. One useful tip is to set short-term goals for each task you start. This allows you to focus on one thing for a specific amount of time without feeling trapped in one project for too long. If you're a Gemini, try breaking larger projects into smaller chunks, each with its own deadline. That way, you get the satisfaction of finishing something while still feeding your need for newness. If you're around a Gemini, encourage them to embrace the excitement of starting something new but also help them appreciate the satisfaction of completing it. A little patience and understanding go a long way in maintaining their confidence and curiosity while also helping them stay grounded. Now, let's talk about something that often gets overlooked when it comes to Gemini, their need for independence. At first glance, Geminis can seem incredibly social, always surrounded by people, always the center of attention, but beneath this extroverted exterior is a deep need for personal space. They crave mental freedom and flexibility more than anything, and this can sometimes make relationships feel a bit unpredictable. If you're in a relationship with a Gemini, whether it's romantic or platonic, you may notice that there are times when they seem completely absorbed in their own world, detached and withdrawn, even when you're in the same room. This might be confusing, especially when they've just been in a lively, social mood. It's not that they don't care about you, it's that their mental energy needs moments of solitude to recharge. For a Gemini, freedom is essential for their well-being. If they feel restricted or boxed in, they might start to feel restless, even trapped, which can lead to feelings of frustration or withdrawal. Take, for instance, a Gemini who's in a long-term relationship. On one hand, they might be intensely engaged with their partner, sharing their thoughts, dreams, and ideas, but then, suddenly, they might pull back, needing time to themselves. This can be hard for partners who don't understand this shift in behavior. But here's a crucial piece of advice: understand that for a Gemini, this need for space isn't a reflection of how they feel about you, it's about the need to maintain their sense of individuality. If you're a Gemini, try to be conscious of when you need that time to recharge. Instead of simply withdrawing without explanation, communicate your need for space in a gentle, understanding way. Let your partner know that it's not about them, but about your need to process your thoughts and restore your energy. This small act of communication will help maintain a healthy dynamic in any relationship with a Gemini. Geminis are often described as social butterflies, able to flit from one group to another with ease, always making connections and leaving a trail of intriguing conversations behind them. This ability to adapt to any social setting is one of their most powerful traits. However, this social prowess doesn't mean they don't struggle with deeper feelings of isolation. Despite their extroverted nature, Geminis can sometimes feel misunderstood or disconnected from those around them. Their need for constant mental stimulation often leads them to seek out new experiences, but deep down, they may still feel a sense of loneliness that they can't easily shake. I had a Gemini friend who was always at the center of every gathering. Everyone loved being around her, and she loved being surrounded by people. But when we sat down for a one-on-one conversation, she would open up about how lonely she often felt. It was a paradox. She was always the life of the party, but underneath it all, she was searching for a deeper connection, someone who truly understood her shifting thoughts and moods. For Geminis, the key to overcoming this loneliness is finding someone who accepts them as they are, with all their layers and complexities. If you're a Gemini, remember that it's okay to lean into those deep, vulnerable moments and not just the fun, outgoing ones. And if you're close to a Gemini, offer them the opportunity to connect on a more personal level, beyond the surface. Sometimes, even the most social of Geminis just need someone to listen without judgment, to provide them with the emotional connection they so deeply crave. When you think of a Gemini, it's impossible to ignore the fast-paced nature of their thoughts and the speed at which they can make connections. This mental restlessness isn't just an amusing trait, it's one of their defining features. Geminis are constantly processing new information, weaving together threads of ideas that might seem unrelated at first glance, but when put together, reveal an intricate tapestry of creativity and insight. Their minds are like a labyrinth, always moving, always searching for new pathways to explore. You've probably encountered someone who's a Gemini and found yourself swept up in their whirlwind of ideas. One moment, they're passionately explaining a new hobby they've just picked up, and the next, they're diving into a deep conversation about the philosophy of life, all while seamlessly navigating a few side conversations. At times, this can leave others feeling like they're playing catch-up. The constant stream of thoughts and shifting interests can be overwhelming, but for the Gemini, this is simply their natural state. It's not about not finishing one topic, it's about satisfying the deep hunger for mental stimulation and exploration. For those around a Gemini, it's important to appreciate this rapid flow of ideas instead of seeing it as a distraction. If you're someone close to a Gemini, you may need to find ways to keep up with their mental pace. This doesn't mean you have to match them word for word, but rather, try engaging with their ideas as they come, without judgment or frustration. Geminis thrive when their thoughts are welcomed and explored, even if they don't always seem to make sense at first. The beauty of their mind is in its ability to connect dots that others may not even see. For the Gemini, it's vital to embrace the constant movement of their thoughts while also learning how to focus on one thing at a time when necessary. One technique that can help is journaling. By writing down the fleeting thoughts that come and go, Geminis can release their mental clutter while also creating a space for deeper reflection. It's about making room for the ideas that truly matter while letting go of the ones that are momentary distractions. The more you practice this, the more grounded you will feel in your own mental landscape. But even with all the intellectual brilliance that Gemini carries, it's not all about ideas and mental pursuits. There's also the emotional side of Gemini that often gets overshadowed. Beneath the surface of the quick-witted, social butterfly is someone who deeply values connection, yet they often struggle to express their emotions in the traditional ways. The Gemini's complexity lies in their constant balancing act between their social, extroverted self and their more vulnerable, introspective nature. Imagine being in a relationship with a Gemini. One day, they might pour their heart out, sharing their innermost thoughts and feelings. The next, they pull away, retreating into a shell of detachment. This emotional push and pull can be confusing, both for the Gemini themselves and for those around them. But what many people don't realize is that this isn't an intentional act of inconsistency. It's part of how Gemini processes their emotions. They need space to process their thoughts and feelings, often doing so in solitude or in their own unique ways, without always involving others. If you're close to a Gemini, understanding this need for emotional space is key to maintaining a strong connection. It's not about shutting you out, it's about their need to navigate their inner world at their own pace. If you're a Gemini, try to find ways to gently communicate when you need that emotional distance. This can help reduce misunderstandings and allow your loved ones to feel involved in your emotional journey, without overwhelming you in the process. For both Geminis and those who love them, the advice is simple: respect the need for space, but also be open to listening when the Gemini is ready to share. Sometimes, the most powerful connections are formed when both parties understand that emotions don't always need to be expressed in the same way. They can be messy, untidy, and fleeting, and that's okay. While Gemini may be the life of the party, the social butterfly who effortlessly flits from one crowd to the next, there's something deeper happening behind the scenes. Geminis crave intellectual connection, but they also deeply value emotional depth, even if they don't always know how to express it. Their need for variety and new experiences can sometimes make them appear superficial. But beneath this is a deep longing for a meaningful connection with others. Take a moment to think about the Gemini who is always surrounded by people, yet seems to maintain a distance. They can seem distant, almost like they're emotionally unavailable, even though they may genuinely care about those around them. This is because Geminis are constantly processing, analyzing, and seeking new experiences. Their minds are never quite still, and because of this, they can struggle to fully engage in one-on-one, deep emotional conversations. This doesn't mean they don't want a meaningful connection, it just means that their emotional world is complex. And sometimes they don't know how to navigate it without feeling overwhelmed. If you're a Gemini, this might feel like an inner struggle between your desire to connect and your need to keep things light and easy. You may find that you seek out new people, new environments, and new ideas, but even then, you can't shake the feeling that something is missing. The advice here is to learn to slow down. Embrace the silence, allow yourself to be present with the people you care about, and take time to explore the depths of your emotions. You don't always need to be on for others. It's okay to show up without the witty comebacks and the endless energy. Allowing yourself to be vulnerable can create deeper, more fulfilling connections. For those who love a Gemini, try to understand that their social nature isn't a sign of a lack of depth, it's just that they find it hard to balance their need for mental stimulation with their emotional world. Offer them the space to explore both. You might find that when you give them room to be themselves, they'll open up in ways you never expected. One of the greatest paradoxes of Gemini is their ability to adapt so quickly to new situations. And yet, their fear of being tied down. This fear isn't just about relationships, it extends to every area of their life. Whether it's career, hobbies, or even friendships, the idea of being boxed in or limited is one of the hardest things for a Gemini to accept. They are constantly evolving, seeking new experiences and challenges that allow them to express their multifaceted personality. But this adaptability can sometimes backfire. A Gemini may find themselves bouncing from one job to the next, from one interest to the next, without fully committing to anything. While this restlessness might seem like a flaw to others, for a Gemini, it's part of their journey towards self-discovery. They fear that if they settle into one thing for too long, they'll lose their sense of freedom and individuality. So, how can a Gemini find balance between their need for freedom and the stability required in relationships and career? The key lies in self-awareness and a willingness to commit to things that align with their values. Instead of diving into a new project or relationship on a whim, take the time to reflect on whether this is something that aligns with your core desires. This doesn't mean you need to abandon your love for variety. But it's about finding projects, people, and situations that allow you to grow without feeling like you're sacrificing your freedom. For those in relationships with Geminis, the advice is clear: don't try to cage them. Let them explore, but also gently remind them of the joys of commitment. Geminis thrive when they have the freedom to grow, but they can also experience deep fulfillment when they see the value in sticking with something for the long haul. Finally, we come to the most misunderstood aspect of Gemini, their ever-changing nature. At first glance, this can be seen as inconsistency or emotional instability. After all, how can someone be so full of life one moment and so distant the next? But the truth is, this shifting nature is one of their greatest strengths. It's not about being unreliable, it's about being fluid, adaptable, and willing to change when circumstances demand it. Geminis are like chameleons. They can slip into new environments, new relationships, and new ideas with ease. This allows them to connect with a wide variety of people and experiences. But it can also make them feel disconnected from any one thing. This constant change means that Geminis are always in a state of flux, constantly evolving into someone new. For a Gemini, the trick is to find peace in the ebb and flow of their life. Instead of resisting the urge to change, embrace it. Understand that your journey will never be linear, and that's okay. If you're a Gemini, try to avoid the pressure to fit into a mold. Instead, celebrate the fact that you are constantly evolving, and that every change brings you closer to understanding who you truly are. For those who are close to a Gemini, understand that their nature may seem unpredictable, but it's their way of staying true to themselves. Be patient and offer them the room to grow. knowing that their ever-changing energy is part of what makes them so unique. If there's one thing that often confuses people about Gemini, it's their seemingly elusive relationship with commitment. Geminis are not exactly known for sticking to one thing for too long, and while this might seem like a lack of dedication or emotional inconsistency to some, it's actually a reflection of their deeper desire for freedom and self-expression. The key to understanding Gemini's aversion to commitment lies in their constant need for growth. For a Gemini, commitment can feel like a trap. Not because they don't value the people or projects they commit to, but because they fear being tied down and losing their ability to explore, evolve, and embrace new ideas. They fear stagnation more than anything else. Picture this: a Gemini starts a new job. And at first, they're excited, fully invested in learning and growing in their new role. But as soon as they've mastered the basics and the work starts to feel routine, they might find themselves looking for something new, something that will reignite their curiosity and sense of adventure. This isn't about a lack of loyalty or responsibility, it's simply their way of needing new experiences to feel fulfilled. But for a Gemini to truly thrive in committed environments, they need to find ways to integrate their love for change with the stability of long-term commitments. Whether it's a relationship, a career, or a hobby, Gemini can benefit from learning how to infuse their commitments with the same excitement and variety they seek in new experiences. One effective tip for Geminis in relationships or work is to communicate their need for freedom early on. It's not about running away from responsibilities, but about finding ways to make those responsibilities dynamic, interesting, and ever-evolving. If you're a Gemini, try introducing new challenges or perspectives into your routines that keep you engaged. If you're close to a Gemini, understanding this need for mental stimulation will help you support them without making them feel restricted. Geminis are known for their remarkable adaptability. It's one of the reasons they can blend into any social setting, switch between topics with ease, and make connections with just about anyone. But beneath this gift for adaptability lies a deeper psychological need, the search for self-understanding. The more they experience, the more they understand who they are, yet this constant search for newness can sometimes leave them feeling unsettled or disconnected. Because Geminis are always looking for new experiences, they sometimes fail to realize that true self-understanding doesn't come solely from external sources but also from internal reflection. For Geminis, understanding themselves means taking the time to process what they've learned, experienced, and discovered. This doesn't come naturally to them, as they're more comfortable moving forward and exploring new ideas. But without the introspection, they risk missing the lessons that lie within those experiences. This is where meditation, journaling, or even talking with a trusted friend can help Geminis slow down and reflect. If you're a Gemini, give yourself permission to pause every now and then, not to stagnate, but to allow yourself the space to digest your experiences and explore your inner world. For those who are close to a Gemini, offering them opportunities to reflect, without pushing them too hard, can deepen your connection with them. Sometimes, Geminis need a gentle reminder that the most profound insights often come from quiet moments of self-reflection, not just the excitement of the next adventure. By allowing them to process their experiences in a way that feels organic, you'll help them grow in ways that are truly meaningful. The last aspect we need to address is the Gemini's emotional depth. Despite their tendency to keep things light and breezy on the surface, there is often a deep, sometimes unexpressed emotional world beneath their social demeanor. For many, it can be easy to assume that Geminis are all fun and games, constantly bouncing between conversations and social circles. But underneath it all, they're often processing a lot of emotion. Sometimes more than they even know how to articulate. This emotional depth can be confusing for those around them, especially when their mood shifts suddenly, seemingly without reason. Geminis might feel deeply, but their challenge is learning how to articulate those emotions in a way that others can understand. They might retreat into their thoughts, overthinking their feelings and emotions, trying to make sense of everything before sharing it. But here's the thing, it's okay for Geminis to express their emotions, even if they're messy or complicated. If you're a Gemini, don't be afraid to let your guard down once in a while and share what's truly on your mind. You don't have to have all the answers before you speak. Opening up, even if it's just in small moments, will not only allow you to connect with others more deeply but will also help you understand yourself better. And for those who love a Gemini, it's important to give them the space to share at their own pace. Their emotional world is vast, and while they may not always know how to express it, the key is offering them a safe space to explore those emotions without judgment. As challenging as it may seem at times, when you allow a Gemini the room to express themselves emotionally, you're allowing them to grow into their fullest, most authentic selves. This isn't about demanding emotional transparency from them, but rather encouraging them to express what's truly going on inside when they're ready. As we've explored, Gemini isn't just a sign of chaos and unpredictability. They are complex, multifaceted individuals who, when understood, reveal some of the most dynamic and inspiring qualities of any zodiac sign. Their ability to adapt, communicate, and transform is nothing short of extraordinary. But like all signs, Gemini's growth comes from self-awareness and learning how to balance their many contradictions. Whether you're a Gemini yourself, or you know someone who is, the most important thing is to embrace the fluidity of their nature. Instead of seeing their unpredictability as a flaw, recognize it as part of their journey toward growth, discovery, and connection. Geminis may not always follow a straight path, but it's in those twists and turns that they find their greatest potential. So, if you're a Gemini, remember to honor both your need for freedom and your desire for connection. And if you're someone close to a Gemini, learn to give them space to grow and explore, while also providing the support they need to stay grounded. Geminis may not always fit into neat boxes, but that's exactly what makes them so special. If you've enjoyed this exploration of the Gemini personality and want to learn more about how astrology can help you better understand yourself and the world around you, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to Zen Mind Peaceful Life, and share this video with anyone who could benefit from a deeper understanding of the Gemini energy. Let's continue exploring the stars together and finding peace in our ever-changing lives. Thank you for joining me today, and remember, whether you're a Gemini or not, embracing your true nature is the first step toward inner peace. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and stay true to yourself.